In today's show, we discuss, do ghosts exist?
And now, the TNT Talk Show, daring to go where other podcasts fear to tread.
Hello, I'm Tony Fasulo, and I share the stage with my esteemed friend and colleague, Taya Boya. Taya, hello, my friend, once again. I hope you're keeping safe and well.
What the hell, Tony? What you gonna do, eh?
Come on, you know I'm going to ask you. You
Yeah,
might
yeah.
as get
Hi,
it out of the way.
audience. How are you? How's it going? Listen, let me
I,
share
lo-
with
I
you.
love the fact now there's not a lot of effort involved for you to say hi to the audience. It's just a revelation. I'm so pleased. It's this next bit I'm not so pleased about.
And that will change in due course. Just like I changed, you will change in due course. You will come to hanker over the words of the
Oh,
wise Dr. Isaiah
oh
Henry
no.
Mapatamba, who said, "A man can find fear in the middle of the night, or he may find arrogance in the brilliance of noon, and the coconut remains in its tree until it falls down." The
What?
coconut remains in its tree
Oh dear
until it
Lord.
falls down.
I don't know what to say.
Wow. It's amazing.
Really? That is utter nonsense. Come on.
What do you mean? I don't understand how you don't get this. Don't you understand what he's
Come on,
telling you?
enlighten me. The first
He's
bit
telling
makes
you,
sense.
he's telling you to find brilliance even in the middle of the night, even at the height of your trials and tribulations. Sink down deep. Be like the coconut that stays in its tree, hard against the elements until it's time to fall. It's just the meaning of life is all encapsulated in that. I don't see how you don't get it. Amazing.
Utter nonsense. I'm sorry. It just doesn't make sense. It pains me to think you understand it and you appreciate it. Oh dear Lord.
Don't know what to say.
Anyway, let's move on with the show. And again, before we move on with the topic, I am going to ask our wonderful audience out there who listen to our show, please continue to like, comment, and even better, subscribe to our show so you get it pop up into your inbox or whatever it is you listen every week, and you can then enjoy an episode every week. So yes, please continue to do those. But if you want to engage with us and talk with us directly, then as before I've mentioned it, join us on the Facebook group TNT Talkers, which is totally open, and we can chat directly with you and we can have a great debate live, and you'll enjoy it, we'll enjoy it. So please come along and join us on there. Right, today's topic. This is one of mine, and it's Tayo's avoided this for a long time. It's I mean, we're on our 230th show, so we've been going a long time. And this one I've wanted to do from the very beginning, but Tayo's avoided it. But we finally going to cover it today. And it is, do ghosts actually exist? So, Tayo, first off, why have you avoided this topic?
Because the answer is so obvious.
Go on then.
No.
They don't exist.
No.
And how can you be so sure that that is the case, and that's why you've avoided this topic? I thought you said you didn't want to talk about ghosts because if they do happen to be true, you're spooked about it.
Huh? No. I've
I'm
never
sure
said
you said that in one of our very early dialogues.
I've never said that. What I said, because you misquoted me there, what I'm saying is I'm not afraid of how do I've forgotten what I said actually. No, it's I'm not afraid of I don't believe that ghosts exist, but that doesn't mean I'm not afraid of them.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean,
So that's my actual position.
That's one of the questions I actually was going to ask. If you either believe or don't believe they exist, why are we afraid of them?
Well, because they're spooky. Because they can do things to you and you can't reply, you can't respond because they're ethereal. You don't.
But can they do things to us? This is the thing.
Well, if they existed, They might be able to do things to us, and we couldn't do anything back to them. How do you protect yourself from something that you don't fully understand? It's fear of the unknown. It's the inability to protect ourselves from these entities if they exist. By the way, I am a rather peculiar person. I don't believe in ghosts, but I do believe in poltergeists. But I don't believe that poltergeists are ghosts. You see, so it's all
That's
straightforward.
interesting because I was going to bring up poltergeist because
Mm.
they're sort of banded together as the same category
Yeah.
because it's a ghost and a
Mm.
poltergeist. But with ghosts, they're okay. Question actually, those people that claim to see ghosts,
Mm-hmm.
does a faith play a part in that thing that they see? What do you
Not
think?
necessarily, not necessarily, because a lot of, not a lot. There have been some instances, there have been some reports of atheists seeing ghosts and changing their minds about their atheism, therefore. So
So
it's
why, hold on. So they're changing their belief of not believing there's a God to
mm,
believing there's a God after witnessing what they think is a ghost.
yes.
Interesting. So that one episode is enough to make them believe in a God.
Yeah, but it's not just the scene, it's the communication that came along with it. So there's been a communication from the ghost entity that imparted knowledge that the person didn't have, and then subsequently found out that it's true. And so they changed their minds. I can't think of. I mean, I can't give our audience a reference for this, but they can probably use a search engine to find it out. The case of the It's almost an urban legend, happens so often. The case of the woman who felt that her sister was talking was trying to communicate with her or something. She just felt something a bit off about her sister, and then she saw her sister in the living room and thought, what are you doing here? But in the like she turned around to talk to the sister or something, and then sister was gone. So 1 second he's like, what are you doing here? Let me come and talk to you. I just had a funny feeling about you. And then she turns around, and then that sister is not there any longer. Transpires the sister died a couple of hours before, something she hadn't heard yet. So that's more than a coincidence. And what did she see? Now, I don't actually know it was a ghost. That's a funny thing. I got this very weird world view where we have to agree. Maybe that's the first item of on the agenda. The first business we have to do is what is a ghost? Because what do you mean by ghost and what I mean by
Yeah.
ghost perhaps not the same thing. So what do you mean by ghost?
Well, there's actually three different entities in effect here we're discussing because you've got instances where people have seen a physical thing, unsure as to what it is, so attribute it to ghost because we've had stories of ghosts passed down to us for generations, but what's the basis of those? It could be like what we spoke about on a previous show about folklore.
Mm,
Ghosts are part of that. So they also appear in religion and they're visual representations. Now, a lot of religions and spiritual stories don't tend to mention the audio side where there's actually, you don't see anything, but you hear voices. That's very rarely mentioned. The other one, which you touched on already, is poltergeist, which where there's not really any visual item as such that you see an entity of some description. There is no real sound or communication coming from it, but objects move. So these are three separate things which all seem to be bundled together as ghosts. But if you look at them separately, they're not really the same. They're all
mm,
different things. But most people define ghosts as the visual one. So you see something strange, almost translucent, and there's no sound. It's floating, and that's the definition of a ghost. But as I've just said, there could be more than one description, but they may not necessarily be the same entities.
Yeah. And I would say that there are, okay, I mean, I haven't thought about it that deep, but there are things that people see and they look like humans. And then there are floating blobs which don't look human, but people associate with the spirit world and with ghosts or something. So, the floating orb of light is very famous in ghost hunting TV shows. They're always seeing blobs of light and they're going, oh, that's a ghost. And then, as you say, properly speaking, I'm not sure I'd qualify voices as being ghostly. I mean, a ghostly voice would be a voice coming from an entity you can see. That is what I would call a ghostly voice. If a person just reports hearing voices, you'd say, well, if they're speaking to you and they answer you, then you should see a psychiatrist. And if it's just voices, this embodied voices, maybe look for a more scientific explanation. I mean, I don't really
Well,
see that as being ghostly, to be honest.
the sound ones is because if you just heard it, you can dismiss that. But what's happened is there are instances of audio, strange audio, being picked up and recorded. So there's actual, you can play it back, and it's very strange. Mediums tend to use audio more than they do visual ghosts. That's their way of communicating. So they're actually hearing sounds, and sometimes those sounds are recorded. And granted, the recordings are very unclear, let's be perfectly honest, but people somehow interpret words from those sounds and think that they're being talked to from the afterlife. So, I mean, we've done a show on mediumship and voices in the past. So this is the thing I'm battling with: the three sorts of, in quotes, ghosts are banded together. The common one, the visual, but then there's still the audio and the poltergeist. And poltergeist, I don't think are ghosts.
No, I don't think that goes. I think we have enough information now to be pretty sure that poltergeists are the misunderstanding of phenomena that is caused by a living being, most usually an adolescent child that's in the house. Most usually an adolescent. I was going to say girl. In fact, in an earlier episode, I said girl. Turns out it's actually more likely to happen to an adolescent boy. And I think if someone calls up and says, someone gets in touch with the TNT talk show and says there's a poltergeist in such a place, my very first question would be, is there actually an adolescent in the house? Because when that child isn't there, nothing will happen. And recently we did a show on telekinesis, didn't we?
We did, yes.
So I think even Princeton University people like academics at Princeton University, so not your average tinfoil hat people by any means, even they will come forward now and say there's such a thing as telekinesis, that we do appear to have the ability to manipulate objects at a distance. And the thing about it is just that poltergeistism, and I've just made that word up, I don't think it's such a word.
It's pretty valid, it sounds good.
Poltergeistism is an extreme form of that, but it recurs so often in the literature that there's this adolescent, there's these unaccountable thuds and shakings and things moving around and things like that. And then in about 18 months, 24 months, it's gone. So there seems to be some kind of phase through which adolescents go when their uncontrolled, probably sexual desires or something, manifest themselves in this kind of
rather unusual manner.
In a rather unusual manner, yes. So yeah, poltergeists. This is why I sort of dismiss them as being attached to ghosts, because part of my worldview, And the reason I don't believe in ghosts, part of my worldview is that dead people can't interact with us physically. So they cannot assemble atoms and molecules into a shape that forms sufficiently densely for us to be able to see it. They might be present, and that is why I don't dismiss presences.
Yeah.
You
People
see,
feel a presence. It's a feeling.
people feel so many times you actually feel that someone's watching, and when you look around, there's no one there. I think that someone is watching you, to be honest. But it's not a ghost. That's not a ghost. Do you see what I'm trying to say? That's
Yeah.
why I say I don't believe in ghosts, because you got to ask serious questions. How can how would the ghost assemble atoms and things? It takes energy to do that. Where's this energy coming from? How is it managing to do that? How come we don't have more and more and more indisputable evidence then? I mean, throughout the whole of history, people have been talking about ghosts, but there isn't, well, okay, I was going to say there isn't a single case
No.
of an indisputable case of a ghost. And I've got one that I'm going to present, and I'm going to put it to you because I think it raises an interesting question, but we'll see. Anyway, that's my position. I do believe that I believe in the afterlife. I believe in reincarnation. I believe in communication from people on the other side.
So how can
Doctor,
the communication
yeah,
make it through to our realm?
they always do it in dreams to ordinary people. It's always in dreams.
Yeah,
You
but
meet
couldn't
you
that
meet them
just
in
be
dreams.
exactly that, a dream,
Well, the
rather
problem is that
than
the dreams don't come true. So, someone tells you, look, this is all from my, well, first of all, I've got personal experience. So that's one thing. Nobody can dispute my personal experience. I shared it with my wife. It's part of our family history. There's no question about it. We knew what was going to happen, and it's occurred over a period of years. But it's very personal, so
no, no, don't share it here. No.
I'm not going to get into all that. So that was a personal thing. But if you think about Dr. Ian Stevenson, this famous researcher who's now unfortunately he's passed on, who made a name actually for himself in reincarnation research, probably helped to make it almost a mainstream academic serious study. There are several cases of, in fact, there's so many cases of this type of dreams that there's an actual term for them. They're called announcing dreams. And these are dreams when someone usually known to the
Dreamer.
someone appears in the dream and says, I'm going to come and I'm going to be your son, or I'm going to be your daughter, or this or that. And sometimes there's a reason why the person receiving the dream thinks, yeah, well, good luck with that because I can't conceive.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, boom, she's pregnant and the little boy is born, and then he has characteristics of the person she dreamt about, like a grandfather coming back, or a son, or something like this, or someone saying to the mother, stop crying, it's okay, I'm all right, I'm going to come back to you. And then the little girl comes back again. So okay, you can be dismissed. Let's not. I mean, if you're for a thorough skeptic, they will say, well, we don't have any evidence of that.
Subjective,
So
isn't it? It's
yeah,
just somebody
it is a
talking.
bit subjective, someone talking. But
Mm.
yeah, but again, like I said, Dr. Stevenson found so many instances of this that he coined the phrase announcing dream.
Interesting. I mean, that's not necessarily the topic we're talking about today,
No,
but it is
no.
very linked. It's
But I'm just trying
it,
to say this, ghosts. Why
yeah.
do you see, if there were ghosts, they'd just appear, wouldn't they? But
But
they don't. They come in the dreams. My actual point is that
yeah,
if there
yeah, I
were
see.
ghosts, yeah,
Yes.
that they would just appear. Uh, on the other hand, two cases, and again, I don't think they're ghosts. Two cases I can tell you of. I've discussed one before on a show. If you recall, I was living with my aunt's, And there was a crash and a scream. Do you remember me telling you this story? A crash and a
No,
scream coming from the kitchen.
no,
And
I
a
don't
girl
remember
screamed
this.
and she came running out. And she said, and we said, "What was your problem?" She said, "Well, because the kitchen was dark. There was no light. I don't know why there was no light. I don't ever remember there being a light bulb in there. Who knows why?" Anyway, anyway, she came screaming. She came running out screaming and said, her mother scared her. So we were like, well, it's your mother. First of all, nobody came in through the front door. So, and then it was up to us boys because it was, okay, boys, go and see what's in the kitchen. It's like, thank you very much. Thanks for that.
Where
But we
was this,
went.
by the way?
This was in
Frame, this
Lagos.
was in
Sorry?
Lagos, in Nigeria. Okay.
In Lagos, Nigeria,
How
in
old were you?
the 17, I'd have been about 14, 13, 14.
Okay.
And so myself and a couple of the bigger boys off we went to the kitchen, nothing there, fortunately.
But it was
And
dark. So did you have a
it was dark.
torch?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We took a torch. It was a smallish kitchen. It wasn't a huge thing.
Ah, okay.
So we went in there, looked around, nobody, and the back door was locked. Front door, no one had come in. And we're like, well, anyway, why are you even scared of your mother? I said, well, I just turned around. She was just standing there. And we're like, oh, okay, yeah, that can be discombobulating and everything. But anyway, so that was that.
But the
So it
mother
happened
wasn't
about,
in the house.
no, she wasn't in the house. She wasn't even in the same, she wasn't even in Lagos. She was in a village somewhere.
Okay.
So, well, we thought it was a bit peculiar. Then we had dinner and played cards, whatever we used to do in those days. Because a large number of us kids, I think maybe 8 or 9 of us at the time. So it was quite fun. It was like a boarding house.
Okay.
Well, yeah. So let's say that was about 7:30 because the sun goes down
Yeah.
regularly. It's in the tropics, obviously.
Yeah.
So the
It's
sun
dark,
always goes
quick.
down at the same time. It doesn't change much. It was about 7, 8, whatever it was. All went to bed, nothing, amiss. About 3 o'clock in the morning, there's banging on the door. Again, very peculiar. So we get up, the boys again go to the front door. What's all this about? Oh, we've come from whatever the name of that village was.
Hmm.
We've come from there. We've got some news. News was the mother died that
Wow.
afternoon. So there's that.
So, okay. So is that a message to rather than a ghost as such, although the person receiving that is seeing
Mm,
something and witnessing it as a entity, so they attribute it to a ghost. But could it be just a personal message
yes, that's what
to
I think.
the individual
Yeah,
to let them know that something has happened
yes, that's what
rather
I
than a
believe.
ghost?
That's what I
Yeah,
believe. And I believe that if we had been in the kitchen at the same time,
you wouldn't have seen it.
we wouldn't. That's why I don't think it's a ghost. You understand now? You
Yeah,
actually understand me.
yeah,
Yes, I don't think we'd have seen anything. I think it's a personal communication, and some people, in inverted commas, see the messenger.
yeah.
And the other one was someone we've actually had on as a guest on our show. Though it wasn't anything to do with ghosts or anything. He had a very similar experience of waking up and seeing her father at the bottom of the bed. This is in her marital home, by the way.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
so
yeah.
so her father isn't going to come into
No,
her
no,
bedroom
no.
unannounced or anything. Sitting at the end of her marital bed, looking at her and smiling, and sort of letting her know that everything will be all right. Just she didn't say said she didn't say anything, but I just felt she was telling me, hey, everything's going to be all right. And I was like, what's going on here? Turned to wake up her husband to say, look,
Mm,
and then he'd gone.
gone.
And obviously later in the morning they found out. She said she kind of knew.
Yeah.
She was like, oh well. And then yes, in the morning, then the message came along. Yep.
See, to
She's there.
me, to me, this is more not a trick of the mind because it's not. I think there are elements of our mind that we obviously don't fully understand from a scientific point of view.
Mm-hmm.
And we are connected in more ways than we realize with loved ones and friends and colleagues who we care about. So we don't just build a emotional bond with people we love. We also build some sort of, not telekinesis bond, but there is something there mentally. So if something happens, it's like I liken it to twin sisters, identical
Mm.
twin sisters, because there's so many examples of that where they're in tune with one another. They sort of sense when the other is in distress, pain, there's a problem, they feel it. And it's almost like a feeling in their own body. So this is something which is almost, we're connected mentally somehow with a loved one, a parent, a child, a close friend, someone you care about. So when when you're in tune with these emotions, these feelings, you can pick up the senses from other people. And as you rightly say, they may manifest as a image, but
Mm.
only you see it. If someone else is present, they don't. So it's your personal, in quotes, ghost, even though it's not really a ghost. You see, what
I'm a bit
I
distracted now because when you talk about ghosts, isn't it weird how pieces of paper start moving around almost by themselves, and you think, oh, that's a bit strange. But anyway, it's tissue paper, and
okay, then
I
we
wish I wish. I know I'm interrupting you. Sorry. I wish I had. We have to share this story with our audience first. A few weeks ago, Tony accuses me of being
oh, the
scared
bottle.
of ghosts, but let's see who the real coward is here.
Okay.
A few weeks ago, I got in touch with Tony and I said, "Look, I've just had a student. I've just been with a student, and the student laid a bottle on the table, and it wouldn't stop rocking. It went on rocking back and forth for what to me was a supernaturally long amount of time. And we performed various ad hoc experiments on the spot, and it just kept this weird rocking thing just going and going and going and going. And so I brought it home and I showed it to my wife, and I said, "Watch this." I placed it on the kitchen counter, and it was rocking back and forth. And I said,
Oh,
"Oh,
so
it's
it did
just
the same at
yeah.
home, and
Oh
it
yeah,
did.
yeah.
Oh, right.
Yes.
So it wasn't the surface then.
No, no, it wasn't the surface. I'm even at the library because this was at the library. We tried it on different surfaces, and they kept rocking back and forth. And I thought, this thing is obviously haunted or something. I brought it home, showed it to my wife, and she was like, "Oh, no, 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 it's just the way they bottled the shape or something."
Yeah,
And
exactly. This
then
is
she
what I
legged
said.
it.
Oh,
See,
she
I didn't
legged it.
realize until later that she did leave the kitchen quite quickly. She didn't hang around very long. So there was that. I was left with the bottle, and I thought, well, I just kept watching the bottle, and unfortunately, I didn't record it. Very foolishly of me. But I did get in touch with Tony. I said, you know what? I think we should record this because it could be that the bottle is haunted or something. And I said, let me bring it around to you and show you. And Tony was like, well, no, actually, don't do that. Actually,
I said, film it and show me it from the film.
it's like you're just down the road, man. I'll bring it to you. No, no, no. That's
No,
fine.
no, that's
Thank you.
fine. No, keep the
It's,
bottle. What I did suggest, though, was to replace the bottle with another identical one and see if they
from the
both
same
had the same
manufacturer.
property. Yeah.
I did that, and that rocked too. Not as much as the first one, but it also rocked back and forth. So I thought, it's probably a manufacturing thing.
So
I tried to keep the bottle, but I think my wife has accidentally got rid
accidentally
of
got
it.
rid
It's
of
not.
it.
I can't find it anywhere. It's like, what
Oh,
happened to the
okay.
bottle, man? That seems to. It was very peculiar though, and yeah, it was very
I
peculiar.
mean, there's all these things that happen, but we automatically, because we don't understand them, we automatically have to fill in the pieces of the jigsaw.
Mm.
You see, we have every piece of information we encounter, we don't always get the complete information. So everything we encounter is like a jigsaw. Some you get more pieces than others, and some are almost complete. So once you've got a complete image, you go, oh, yeah, it's only two pieces in the edge. I know what that is. And so you understand what it is. When you encounter things that we don't have all the pieces for, our brain is not satisfied with, oh, I don't know what this is. Doesn't like it. We, as humans, for whatever reason, feel the need to fill in the pieces of the jigsaw. when
Yeah,
we're
but
lacking the information, and we make up the rest. So if you've got a jigsaw where you've only got a few pieces in the corner, you can't make out what that thing is, so we put in the pieces. But sometimes when there's fear involved, the pieces that we put in are outlandish. For instance, we don't
mm.
understand something. Oh, it's got to be a ghost. It's got to be something hellish, because we humans are predisposed for negativity. Did you know that? It's a survival thing. We have to be erring on the negative to survive. Because if we hear rustling in a bush,
It could
we
be.
have
It
to
could.
think it could be a
What's your plan
saber-toothed
B
tiger.
if it
Yeah, exactly. What's
is
your
a
plan B?
jaguar
Yeah,
or cheetah,
exactly. So you've
whatever?
got
Yeah.
to be, but most of the time, that's just to keep you alive. It doesn't actually serve you well with the actual right answer. So you automatically think the worst to preserve yourself. But in reality, when it's discovered what it isn't what you thought. And
No, do you
so
know
this is the
something?
case.
Do you know why I'm alive today? I'm alive today because I had this idea of what's your plan B. I've always told you, well, what's your plan B? If something, if there's a possibility that A could happen, and you think, yeah, it's A. I always say, well, what's your plan B? One day in Zaire in Nigeria, the town where I grew up, there was an electric wire cable that had fallen off from its pole, whatever was lying, from the pole slanting onto the ground and onto the ground.
Oof.
And it was fine. And I was just putting my finger up. Well, I was didn't really put it up there, but this thought just came to my mind. You know, see if it's alive. Touch it.
Oh, not a
And
great way
something
of discovering it. No.
something said to me, what if it's
Live.
live? What's your plan B?
Mm.
And that was the moment in my life that what's your plan B was born. Because I
Wow.
didn't have a plan. So, well, yeah, I don't have a plan B. And then my alter ego said, well, in that case, don't touch it, idiot.
Yeah.
And I didn't. And then I went into, because it was close to where I was going. I went in to do what I was doing. On my way out, there was a big crowd standing around. A poor little girl had come along and she had wanted to pee. And she's okay in Nigeria. We don't always have to.
Yeah.
So she had squatted down to pee and had put her hand down on this
Oh,
wire. And obviously she left us.
wow.
So yeah, that could have been me if my alter ego hadn't said, well, what's your plan B? And I've never forgotten it. So when you talk
Mm.
about being negative or something, saying in certain circumstances, I think in all circumstances you've got to think about the negative thing, not just the positive
No,
thing.
absolutely you should. It's a risk
Not
assessment
just
and we
yeah.
play it out all the time. But
There
a
you
lot of
go.
people
So
don't look at the end result. They just, oh,
they
yeah, it's a
just
risk here.
they just vote for Trump anyway. No risk assessment there, pal.
Oh dear. Anyway, let's get back on topic here.
Yes,
Right, yeah.
let's.
This story of the ghostly the first off we mentioned about the lady, the mother who had passed
Yeah,
away in the kitchen. That can happen. There's many reports
many reports of
of
that. I think it's
of
all
similar things.
messaging. It's just messaging. So
Yeah,
that's what I
rather than a
think.
ghost, I wanted to touch on very quickly. There's a number of people reporting ghost stories or seeing ghosts when they're waking from the bedroom. That's a common place. You see a figure in the room with you. But there's a condition called hypnagogia. I'll repeat
Mm-hmm.
that. Hypnagogia. This is a state between wakefulness and
Mm,
sleep where people can experience vivid hallucinations
mm,
that appear real. So if someone wakes up during this state when they're not fully awake, they might perceive things as ghostly when they're not really there. And so that's and then you have the pareidolia effect
exactly.
where you look at something and we fill in the blanks as we've already touched on,
Mm,
where we say, oh, that looks human like, I mean,
Yeah, that happens to
psychologists do
everyone.
it. Yeah.
Surely that happens to it
Yeah, it
happens to
does.
me. It
It
happens.
happens
You
to
wake up,
loads.
you think, ooh, there's someone in the chair. It
Yeah.
turns out to be a coat or something that you left
Yes.
there. And then
Absolutely.
so eventually you get to the point where you wake up and you see something and you just sort of snort and go back to sleep. Ah, can't be
Yeah.
bothered to put on the light and discover that it's actually something quite innocent.
Yeah, indeed. It's again, we're not in a position to critically think what
Mm,
it is because we're in this hypnagogia state. And that's where many, many people report to see things in the room, someone, an alien, a ghost, a spirit, and it's during these states. And so a lot of them, that's why psychiatrists and people like that ask the question for a lot of people, have you seen a spirit? Have you seen a ghost? Where was it? If you mention in the bedroom when I was in bed, most of those are dismissed purely because of these conditions that they're so prevalent. They
mm,
happen all the time. Whereas if people report to seeing spirits in other places, then that obviously you ask more questions there. But what I want to ask is why are ghosts predominantly seen at night as opposed to
ah,
during the day?
because shadows help extend pareidolia.
Yes.
You can put your own interpretations and things onto shadows. It's like they're like blank slates, but in the light, you can see the object clearly, and it's more difficult to make a pareidolia out of it. So that would be the reason why. Before you go on with that, I just had a little thing right now, actually, as we're sitting here, and this happens reasonably often. That every now and then I get a smell, and that is something that I think a lot of people don't talk about. That there are a lot of hauntings and whatever. There are also smells that come across,
Okay.
and many times it reminds you of someone or someone like someone who's passed on.
Wow.
Yeah, well, it doesn't happen to you. It's happening to me right now, actually, as we're talking about it, which is probably my brain inventing something just
Because we're
to
high, you see, because we're talking about this topic, it does create heightened
yeah,
senses
yeah.
because it
So
is quite a emotive subject. Ghosts, it's like, oh, I'm not dismissing it out of hand, but I'm going to ask critical questions. But there's always in the back of your mind, oh, what if they're real?
mm,
We don't know 100%, and it's someone fully arrogant to say that. But you do have to look at life and things like this with a evidence-based viewpoint. You have to, because if
mm,
you didn't, if you started to, well, what if ghosts are true? Then okay, you could ask that question. Then you'd then go on to the next question. So if ghosts are true or could be true, we have to prepare ourselves in case. And so you can go to lengths and lengths and lengths that
well, that's a tinfoil hat
well, it
terrain,
exists,
isn't it?
and this
Yeah.
is part of the problem. It's like a silly example. You could say, "Oh, well, Harry Potter could be real." The
Hmm.
story of Harry Potter. Okay, if Harry Potter is real, we must defend ourselves against magic in case magic happens. And how far do you take that? You see, that's not based on fact, and that's why a lot of people have to, without evidence, they have to sort of create a base layer and go, well, what evidence do we have? There isn't a lot. It's not empirical. We've got some circumstantial evidence which could lead to ghosts being quote real to some
Hmm.
people, but it doesn't make them real. So you have to take this viewpoint of, well, not enough evidence, they can't be real. It could be just the human mind at play. And what we do witness, as you've said already, where some people see a loved one passing, could be this communication that we have with the people that we care about. We don't fully understand it, but there's something there that enables us to see them just before they go. And that isn't explained yet, other than people's recollection of these stories. But scientifically, we're still looking into it, but we don't know yet the true reason of what's going on.
I'll tell you who a set of people who've got great stories to tell about girls. Really, really good stories. Nurses. nurses in hospitals, they seem to see quite a lot of strange things, which would, if confirmed, qualify as real ghosts, if confirmed. You see, first of all, if one person sees a ghost, that's a data point of one. That's not impressive. No, who cares basically? I don't take that seriously. It's a data point of one. It's why even my anecdote, which has witnesses, the one about uh, the girl in Lagos
in the kitchen.
in the
Yeah.
kitchen, that has witnesses because there were so many of us involved,
Yeah.
and
But
many of us are
none
still
of you
alive.
actually saw the actual
But
entity in
no, but we
question,
saw the
reaction.
reaction.
Mm.
So the if you know when you say that people have seen the gray lady, the black lady, the
Yeah,
white
yeah,
lady,
yeah,
the
yeah,
whatever
yeah.
lady, at least they've seen the same thing,
Yes.
supposedly. But there's no one is taking photographs of the same thing over and over,
No.
which would tend to lend to the idea of there being an actual entity, an actual thing there.
Yeah.
Is there, for example, a natural setting that the pareidolia in that particular place appears,
Yeah.
especially at a certain time of the day?
Yeah.
Because, with the sun shifting positions, and by the way, shifting positions over the year. So sometimes, if you're not there at the right time of the year, at the right time of day, you might not see anything. You see what
Yeah.
I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
So there's that. But nurses, they've got this, and one of the things that they have, the people in hospices, they actually say they know when a patient is about to die because the patient will often stare off into a corner
Yeah.
or some part of the room, fix their eyes there, seem to see someone there or some people there, and become very relaxed and happy because they're back with somebody that that they know, and it happens so often. It's
Yeah.
it's it's not even worth arguing about. It's just that it's a known phenomenon. Now it could be the brain playing tricks, but if so, it's quite a remarkable trick that it's a loved one, and that loved one brings comfort.
Yeah.
Why don't we have stories of people seeing horrible things? People who've done bad things in their lives, they don't see horrible things. They still see something positive.
Although I did follow what was it on social media where there were some people who'd had near death experiences
Mm,
and come back, and a large number of them had reported seeing, what you say, something nice, and it was peaceful,
mm,
colors that were unimaginable. They could see their body and they were leaving and floating away and seeing things around the room. I mean, we did a show on this as well.
mm.
And then they go back. But there were a couple of people on that feed did say they didn't experience that. They they experienced something that actually wasn't very pleasant at all, and they were glad when they came back. That was
Really?
slight, yeah, that was interesting. That took my attention because obviously the biggest bulk of them
Mm.
were recounting that same story that you've just mentioned, where it looked pleasant, the colors were great, it felt euphoric,
Yeah,
it
but
was
you're talking about
bright.
NDEs though. Not
Yeah,
NDEs, near death experiences.
yeah,
I'm not talking about that. And the person isn't having an NDE. The person in the hospice, these hospice cases, they are not people who are having near death experiences. They are close to death, but they
yeah.
but
They're still
they're
alive.
they're still alive. Their hearts are beating.
Yeah,
They've got brain activity. It's just that they kind of just stare off, and they kind of is the first stage to them leaving.
yeah.
They stare off. They look, and sometimes they say things or they talk to people who aren't visible.
There.
Another reason why I don't believe in ghosts, they talk to people who aren't visible, so they are seeing people. They are seeing people, but we are not.
Yeah.
Are
But
you having
could this be
are
a
you having
breakdown?
mysterious circumstances
Yeah.
too? Just now, for people listening to the podcast, Tony has just turned and he's fiddling with something, and I was just wondering whether he too has just had, because I had a piece of paper do something weird. Have you had?
No, I had a light come in to directly into
Ah,
my
right.
eye, so I've just shut my shutter. So I've had to
Oh, okay.
reach across and actually do that. So yeah, that wasn't anything mysterious. It was
Well,
me moving the shutter.
boring.
But what is interesting? I mean, I can say this directly. I mean, my father passed away. I was there, and did exactly as you say. He was looking in the corner. There was a window, and he kept looking over there. His eyes were fixed over there, and he was. It was strange. He was at peace almost. It's that moment. And he
Hmm.
kept he kept looking over there. I'm like, what are you seeing? And I kept turning round to the window, and yeah, it was nothing there. But he kept looking over there, and yeah, he passed away in the night, and it was
Well, he didn't say anything.
no, he was
No, it's
just
the
looking,
interesting
and
cases are the interesting cases, more interesting cases are cases where people say, "Oh, ex, my husband's here, my wife's here, my mom's here, my dad's here."
ex-husband there.
No, no, no. I didn't. I
Oh
said my.
gosh, you would want to see your ex. I don't know, but okay.
Well, if you think ex
See,
as a
how
type,
does that work? You see, I've often wondered about that. What happens
what?
if you go? If some, what about these people that have had, two or three marriages?
Oh,
Who
your favorite one will come back.
your favorite one?
Your favorite one. I
But
don't
what?
know. Sometimes your these people, their parents don't come, but their grandparents come. And if you believe
Okay,
in reincarnation, isn't it possible that the parents have reincarnated? We don't know what's going to
I
happen
don't
when we die.
know.
We're going to
We
find
don't
out
know.
one day. That's all we know for
Well,
sure.
yeah, we
Is
will
that we're
find
going to
out one day.
we're going to find
Hopefully,
out.
later rather than sooner. That's my aim anyway.
Wow.
Okay,
I've got something I want to
go
bring
on.
up, and
Yeah,
we need to bring it up.
on the ghost element. Yeah.
Yes, this is something we've looked at before, and I think I can probably copy the picture. Can I? Anyway, it's on our TNT Talk Show
Page.
Facebook page, not TNT Talkers,
Oh yeah,
TNT Talk Show itself,
yeah.
because we've got a group over there. And it's a picture taken in, what was it, 19 something or the other. I should know this, shouldn't I? The Goddard Squadron. Do you
Okay.
remember this picture?
No,
In that case, I'll definitely have to send it to you. Right.
we'll share it. We'll share it with the audience. We can still do that.
All right. So here we go. I'm going to send it to Tony
Yeah.
through a handy little WhatsApp thingy here. You, as soon as you see it, you remember it because we did talk about it quite extensively.
Have you sent it now? No.
Return to media, send it. That one. Remember this?
Oh yes.
Yes.
I'll just clarify for our listeners who obviously cannot see this. We will share it on the blurb with the show, so
Mhm.
you can look at it yourself. This is a early 1900s picture. Is it a 1900s? It is,
Yes,
isn't it?
yes, because it was the First World War.
Yeah, and there's a lot of soldiers, it would appear, all lined up, black and white, but very sepia type photo. But if I remember rightly, there was a squadron member who recently died and wasn't in the picture because he died, and the picture was taken a day or a week later. But the person who had died was in the back of the picture. So we will share this. So
For
he want
me, this is if confirmed. I don't know how we can still confirm it. So it was first. When was the picture taken? I'm trying to look for taken in 1919
yeah,
and first published in 1975 by a retired RAF officer, Sir Victor Goddard. These were the men in his squadron
yeah,
at the time of the First World War.
after the First World War.
Well, okay, after the First World War, they had been in his squadron during the First World War. This
Yeah,
was
yeah, of
taken.
course.
Okay, so as you do, you because I believe the squadron was about to be disbanded, but they wanted a keepsake of all
Yeah.
the men they served together with. So they assembled themselves into this famous photograph, and they took a photograph. And someone put the photograph up on the board and said, "Look, if you want a copy of this, write your name underneath the photograph, and we'll make you a copy." No, don't forget, this was in the pre-digital
Yes, of
day and age. It
course.
wasn't just send things, willy nilly all over the place. So people would come up, look for themselves, and say, "Yeah, yeah, I look quite good there. I want a copy of this." In so doing, one of them noticed. Do you realize that at the back row,
Yeah.
looking at it, at the back row, about where was it? The Where is this thing I'm looking for now?
The
The
sixth face from the right.
one, two, three, four. From the right, you're going. Because I was going
Yeah.
from the left. Okay. No. Let's go from the left. It's easier. One, two,
Okay.
three, four.
Yeah.
So the fourth from the left
Yeah.
is just a little sort of something behind him, and that's the face you're looking for. And I've sent
Well,
you a blow. I sent you a magnification of it. Can you see in your
you,
WhatsApp?
it doesn't look like a face of a person though. It
No,
just looks
look at
like
the
a
magnification
yeah.
in your WhatsApp.
I'm looking.
Can you see?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I can see.
Yeah.
It does.
And
Yeah.
what
Oh
if
yeah,
it's
you can see it, the magnification of it now. Yeah.
no cap, no cap.
No cap. Yeah.
Everyone else is wearing a cap.
Yeah.
So this is what gets me, and this is why I thought to myself, is this
We'll share
possibly
this again. Yeah.
the best, the best evidence ever of a ghost? And I'll tell you why. If it's pareidolia, if it's just an accident, if it's just a coincidence, yes,
Yeah.
why does it look like the person?
Yeah.
It shouldn't look like the person.
No.
If it's just pareidolia,
Yes, that's very true.
yeah, that's what I thought. I was like, well, but it doesn't mean that Tyler throws in the towel and
Yeah.
all of
And
a sudden
believes in
believes in
ghosts.
ghosts. No. So, what alternative explanations can we have? I fortunately don't have to do a deep dive into this. Someone else did.
Okay.
And someone else did so in this link, which I will also share with you so we can share it with the audience. There's a site called skeptic.com.
Yes.
They don't believe in anything. Very skeptical. And it says basically, should we take this picture seriously? Now, what alternatives they advanced? They said, well, in those days, you took a picture. It took quite a while for the picture to form. It wasn't just press a button and instantly you had a picture. People
Absolutely.
had to sit still. What if somebody came up, realized he didn't have his hat, and ducked down or something? So he was there for part of the picture and then decided, oh, hang on, I'm not wearing a hat. I'll look weird. Ducked behind his friend and then ducked out of sight. We would have we would have a picture like this. We'd have somebody who had a ghostly presence because they weren't there throughout the entire time it took for the
It
picture
took
to
to capture
develop.
the picture, yes, because it took a while. They had to stand still when
That's
the
right.
picture was captured. It wasn't an instant picture, yes. Yeah. I mean,
That would explain that. Secondly, and so that's a bit, yeah, maybe, maybe not, but I think where push comes to shove is when we ask the question. Now, how do I do this? We ask the question. This was a picture of a man called Freddie Jackson.
yeah.
Question: was there a Freddie Jackson
What in the squadron, you mean?
in the squadron?
Don't know.
Well, the skeptics couldn't find a Freddie Jackson member of the squadron.
So why then was this whole thing fabricated?
The person who took the photograph was a woman called Capel. and the leader of the squadron was called Goddard, and they both said it was of a Freddie Jackson who had died walking into a propeller
Okay.
a few days before the photograph was taken. And the problem is the only Freddie Jackson who died in 1918 was the Freddie Jackson who died of a heart failure. Nothing to do with
Walking into a propeller.
walking to propeller. He died in March of 1918. This picture was taken November 11th. November 11th was Victory Day, wasn't it?
I can't.
Yeah, Victory Day is 11th of November. That's when oh, Victory. Sorry, yeah, Victory Day is when is November 11th, 1918, the day that the war was won.
VE Day.
VE Day. So that's a. Oh, I suppose that's why you would take a picture, isn't it, to celebrate the fact that you made it through the war. Anyway, Freddie Jackson. There's a link to. Oh, I'll send you this link as well. There's a link to a spreadsheet. So I'll copy the URL that the skeptic people went and had a look at, and they assembled all the Freddie Jacksons that they could, and none of them
Look
fit
like this guy.
No, none of them fit they don't fit the story.
Oh, okay.
So, but if there was a Freddie Jackson and he walked into a propeller, this is without a doubt the strongest piece of evidence for the existence of ghosts ever. There's nothing like it, in my
You see,
opinion.
this is a one-off. It was an old photo, but as you rightly say, there could have been issues with the picture, perhaps. So yeah, what I want to see, what I want to see is with the advent of phone cameras now, literally the prevalence, everyone and his dog has a phone camera.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you would have thought that, I mean, we've had phone cameras now for a good part of what, 10, 20 years even? Good ones. Certainly really outstanding ones the last few years, that's for sure. So I want to see instances of ghosts that are similar to this photo, taken during the day, not just at night. So a daytime photo captured by more than one person using different phones. So you have not a single data point, as you've mentioned. So, I mean, there are public events that people go to, and particularly haunted houses and places like that, that there have been people who've reported they've seen something, but it's never been captured. It's always been a report. Why is it that we can take photos of everything and everyone, and particularly food and, you know, people like that, but why can we not capture pictures by various sources of ghosts, of
Well,
apparitions?
because they're not really there. For example, you've just triggered a memory, and I'm so glad you did, because I was going to present it to you. I've sent it to you now. There's a very famous video going around of a security guard talking to someone who isn't there.
Yeah, I remember. I think you shared this to me before, but we'll share it with our audience. Yes.
And what is interesting about it is that he has to be told by someone, who are you talking to? He himself has zero idea that he's talking to somebody who isn't there. And then
It was videoed as well, so he was shocked because he saw the
wa-
video.
he ran to the first of all he ran away, which is very realistic. And then he ran up and then he went to the control room and had a look. And if I understand this, if I remember the aftermath of it, is that he resigned and wouldn't work there any longer.
Yeah, that was bizarre. I did see that. But the thing is,
And he's not
again,
the only one.
but again, look, this has been a video, and we'll share this with our audience. The security guard was caught on camera talking to someone,
Yeah,
but that someone no one could see.
precisely. Camera couldn't catch it.
Only camera didn't pick it up. No one else picked it up. Only the security guard could see who he was
That
talking to.
buttresses my own idea that it is in our minds.
It's in our mind.
That's my point. That ghosts are in our. They're not. I mean, okay, they are there, but they're not ghosts. Like
Yeah, they're not ghosts. They're images that we're
we are
seeing.
creating to
Are,
explain.
are we creating them?
Yeah, we're creating them. We are creating the images and the sounds to explain the communications we're having. We this man is not aware that he's doing that.
No.
He's seen whoever he said it was an old lady. He's seen the old lady and he's talking to the old lady and he's trying to tell her where to go or something. Or it's too late to come in or something. He's explaining that, oh, no, you're too. So he's just interacting normally with a normal person, as far as he's concerned,
On
until
camera, yeah, on camera, on the video cam, which we'll share. We'll, like I said, our
someone says to
audience
him, "Who are you talking
are
to?"
be sort of chomping
And
at the bit to
interestingly,
see this. Yes.
when you say who you're talking to, then that illusion breaks. He doesn't see the woman anymore.
No.
So I think it just really lines up with what I'm saying. The mind plays that you just said a trick. And I think it really is a trick. The mind plays a trick on us. We think it's real, and then it's just not because nobody else will see it.
Yeah.
And that's why cameras and phones won't pick it up because there's nothing to pick up.
It's all in our head.
Yeah.
Okay. So is that your conclusion? Because I've noticed we're at the top of the hour. This show's gone really
it's
quick.
it's absolutely is that for me, the coconut remains in its tree until it falls down. This is the thing you've got to understand. What now you're getting it. Now you're beginning to understand.
Okay, interesting. I mean, for me personally, I'm still open for debate. I don't know. Obviously, I've sort of argued against them during this, but whether we're emotional creatures and we manifest these things, so are the ghosts real? But I think if somebody does pass, there's certainly something happening. Whether it's a soul leaving the body, that's up for question. Do we see that soul for even a fraction of time? I don't know. But certainly something strange is going on. So do ghosts exist, in my opinion? Don't know. That's all I'm saying. Now, if you've loved this episode, please hit subscribe and stay tuned for more deep dives into prophecies, mysteries, and the unexpected twists of fate. You've listened to Tony and Tayo, and we are the TNT Talk Show. But unfortunately, we have reached the end of the show for another week.